New Atlanta Falcons head coach Raheem Morris. He was on the Pivot podcast recently, and he's just gushing and raving about Dan Quinn to Channing Crowder. Here is Falcons head coach Raheem Morris.
One thing, and your X and O's, your scheme, your football acumen is amazing. But how you relate with people is something that people struggle with more than schematics of football.
You know, Dan Quinn gives me credit for that, but he gets the credit for being the greatest connector that I've ever been around. Right? I watch this man connect with everybody. And, like, you want to talk about a great listener? Like, Dan Quinn has the patience like I have never seen, man. And he can sit there and he can listen to it. And I don't know whether he believes you or not, but he made me believe he believed me. and that's all that really mattered. But, like, you can't not talk about the people that you work with, like Dan Quinn, Mike Shanahan, John Gruden, Jay Gruden. Like,
one thing that Dan Quinn does that I'm impressed by, that I wish I was better at, when he gets asked a question by a member of the press, he almost always responds to them with their name. He's like, "Good question, Nikki," or "Thanks for asking that, JP," or Mitch, or whoever that is asking the question. Like, he actually takes the time to try to remember people's names who are covering the team, which is, look, it's a small thing, but you know what? That's a nice touch. And I wish I had more of that, because I struggle with remembering people's names at times.
Struggling.
Who is the number one guest of this show who does that?
Who does what? Struggles on remembering people's names?
No. As a guest on this show,
okay.
Every answer.
Oh, I know exactly who it is. Joe Beninati.
Joe Beninati's amazing
Joe
at it.
Beninati is
If Cakes
awesome
asks a question, go, well, Cakes, if Jason, all of us.
Yep.
He knows our voices, and he always throws in the name. I remember Peyton Manning used to do that bit.
Joe always will say, "Great question."
Yeah.
He will say that.
Yeah, he'll hook you.
Always? That diminishes some of the questions.
No, he does. He likes to say that.
Love me some Joe B. Love that guy. Caps training camp right around the corner, Jason.
I know. We'll be driving to Arlington.
Like first week in September.
I know. Before you know it.
That's like a month away. So get ready. Get ready for puck season, Jason.
It's coming.
50th anniversary of the Capitals' existence coming up this season. It's a big one. All right, so that was Raheem Morris talking about Dan Quinn.
I mean, I think that's good. He connects with the players.
Mm-hmm.
Ultimately, he's got to connect with better players than the players they've had in the past.
Well, that goes hand in
That's
hand.
up to Adam
That's
Peters.
Adam Peters. That's his guy. And we've seen them interact with each other. It seems like those guys are on the same page. They're going to work well together. They have some synergy there, at least at this point. So that's a good sign at this point for the Commanders. All right, let's get to the second piece of audio. We have a former Commander here, Antonio Gibson, referencing the Commanders as compared to his new organization that he's with. He is now with the New England Patriots, in case you didn't know that. Here is, as he hates being called, Gibby.
Man, that is absolutely true. And nothing against my old teammates, but just how they do things here, man. It's completely different than what I'm used to. Just how they go about practice, meetings, the organization, and how everything is ran. So when they say standard, they talk about absolutely everything, and I can definitely agree with that.
He's just talking about the Patriots standard as compared to the Commanders. And look, this is the Patriots of the past 20-ish years. Like, their scoreboard, their Super Bowl scoreboard crushes the Commanders' Super Bowl scoreboard of late. Like, they've been a model organization.
Well,
now, the last few years have been lean.
But Gibson wasn't part of that. He's talking about the organization right now.
Right.
Comparing it to, he was under Ron Rivera. So this kind of goes hand in hand with what you're talking about. I mean, maybe the organization sucks right now with Dan Quinn and Adam Peters. We don't know. Ultimately, it's going to be about wins and losses, and that's how you really judge it. He's taking a shot, though, really at the old regime. That's the way that I look at it.
Right.
He's talking about meetings. Well, the meetings were, Eric Bieniemy, Scott Turner during the Gibson run.
Right.
Okay, those are the offensive meetings he's talking about, saying that the meetings there maybe are more detailed. Who knows exactly? But he thinks the meetings there are better. The standards are better. Well, again, that's old regime. We're out with the old. Now it's the Cliff Kingsbury regime.
Hope it works out.
I'm less concerned with how he's assimilating into the organization in New England. I need to know what his role is going to be heading into the 2024 season? Is he just like
Fantasy cakes
is
coming
he like
out.
a strict backup to Ramondre Stevenson? Is it a 70-30 split with the carries? Is Gibby like more of the passing down back? Because Ramondre Stevenson can catch balls out of the backfield too. These are things I need to know.
It's funny. Yesterday, I saw there was a little back and forth with our favorite troll, Juan from Rockville,
Okay.
saying that all we do is hype up Jayden Daniels. The station just hypes up Jayden Daniels. I was like, wait a minute. Russellmania came on the show, Chris Russell, and he said that it was kind of a mixed bag with Jayden Daniels. And then I happened to see online there's a site, NFL notifications, and it had all the interceptions of certain quarterbacks.
Yeah.
By the way, Purdy's thrown a ton of interceptions apparently in training camp. Meaningless. And it had touchdowns for some of the guys, which I think is also generally meaningless. Like Brock Purdy's thrown 7 interceptions in his last 2 practices, apparently. But Jayden Daniels, after all that said, I did read the Washington Post, and it was all glowing about Jayden Daniels yesterday.
Right.
Terry McLaurin apparently was screaming after a 40-yard pass. I'm telling you, that S is money.
Love it. Love to hear that. So yesterday out at practice, JP Finley, and he was talking about this with B. Mitch on the air yesterday. There's a picture of a fan that brought this looks like a third grader made it. It's a Harris Peters 24 building the foundation to return to glory. Thank you. And he's taking a picture with Adam Peters and majority owner Josh Harris. And I kind of agree with JP Finley. He was posting this question to Brian. Is Josh Harris ripped? And in this picture, I don't know if it's the angle, he looks kind of jacked.
He's a former wrestler.
Yeah.
He's got like a schmedium, like white polo on, and he's got like his arms are like stretching the fabric up by his biceps. He's got a flat stomach. He looks pretty ripped, especially compared to like other NFL owners. He's definitely ripped. And B. Mitch is shouting him down like B. Mitch is used to being like an NFL locker room, seeing gigantic, huge, like muscular dudes. And I'm not saying he's that, but for a guy who's how old is Harris? Like
I don't know, early 60s?
Early 60s, maybe?
Yeah.
Hey, he looks good.
Looks in pretty remarkable shape. Give him credit. Now,
I was less
when
concerned
you're a
about that.
It's a little easier to be in shape than when you're not a billionaire. So
I was
kind of
less
understand
I
it.
was less concerned about that versus, the takeaways. And again, don't want to read too much into it, but Cakes, you're a big Jahan Dotson guy.
I'm a truther,
Curious about Jahan Dotson. He apparently had a really nice toe tap from Jayden Daniels. And then the quotes again, all hype on Jayden Daniels.
Yes.
Dotson said, with him, anything is possible. Me and Terry were just talking about it on the sideline. Daniels is putting the ball in places where it makes our job so much easier, where only you can get it and the defender has no play on it. You truly got to cherish stuff like that and be thankful for it because not everyone can do that. He's a special talent.
Go back and see what McLaurin said about Sam Howell
I
last year.
know. He said
I
they
can't
I
found their
guarantee he said
quarterback.
something similar to he puts balls in spots where we can make plays.
It's July.
I guarantee he
it's
said
July 31st, and I haven't made that many outlandish bets about Jayden Daniels overs for the 2024 season. The only one I can think of is that I have a bet with you in the book where I think he has 4 total touchdowns in the first 2 games.
4 total in the first
Which I think
against
is very-
Tampa and the Giants.
I think it's very doable. I think he
Well,
can.
I mean, anything can happen.
He
Sure.
can have a combination of 4 rushing and passing touchdowns in the first 2 games.
Of course.
He
course
can
he
also
can.
he can also have one total touchdown in the first 2 games.
He could have 4 turnovers in
Right,
the
and
first 2 games.
As a rookie, you just don't know exactly
You
what
just
you're
have
going
no
to get.
idea. You just have no idea.
But I'm just letting you guys know I'm vulnerable to making Jayden Daniels over bets right now. You guys can swoop in and just
I will. Just you
you guys can just tempt me with numbers.
state your case and I'll go under.
Eventually, I will.
All right.
Maybe when you come back from your fancy trip to Pebble Beach and Napa, I will. I'll have some bet.
Well, when you
parameters.
come back from your 2-week hiatus,
yeah,
they would have already finished the preseason.
correct. We'll just be waiting on the regular season.
We're going to be
start.
waiting for a couple weeks for the regular
It's going
season.
to be fantastic.
Yeah.
Also from JP Finley's Twitter, he's at JP Finley NBCS. He sat down with Brian Robinson, and some of his takeaways were One, he expects a balanced offense from Cliff Kingsbury. And, of course, it has to be more balanced than Eric Bieniemy's offense.
Mm-hmm.
Two, Dan Quinn told J.P. Finley he's blown away by Brian Robinson's ability to run the full route tree. So we should see more of Brian Robinson catching balls.
I feel like we heard that
Yeah, that's
last
just
year.
something we didn't see last
Definitely
year.
heard it last year.
Yeah.
And with Austin Eckler being there, you would guess probably more balls thrown to Eckler than to Brian Robinson, because that's what Eckler does. He can catch 100 balls out of the backfield if he's featured.
I will say that just seeing the few highlights, I don't know, maybe 5 highlights of Eckler, he just looks 100%.
Right, which is great.
I mean,
Great
he looks
news.
quick. Anything can happen. You
Yeah.
know, he could get hurt in a preseason game or in a practice, but
Yeah.
right now he looks really quick.
And the third takeaway,
So you got to be happy about that.
B-Rob, prayer works apparently. B-Rob prayed for Washington to get Jayden Daniels. Prayer answered. Jayden Daniels here with the Commanders. There you have it.
I also saw the kicker cakes apparently had a strong day.
That's good, because he had some not so strong days in the first few days of camp.
Hit a 51-yarder with plenty of distance, they say, on CBS Sports.
That's great, but I would still expect some more competition to come in for Ramiz Ahmed. I hope I'm pronouncing his name correctly.
Yep, I think that's what it is.
I would guess you're going to see some other kickers showing up either during camp or once the preseason games start, which they start August 10th.
It'll be an issue. It just will be this year. Kicking will be an issue.
This is not Commanders related, but I do have to give Valdez props, the back padding machine. He did tell me, and I scoffed at him a few days ago, that none of the Bears starters would be playing in the Hall of Fame game, including Caleb Williams.
Yeah, he's not.
And that news came out that Caleb Williams will not be starting.
The coaches really look down on the Hall of Fame game.
They do.
They feel like it's way too early for their teams to be thrown out there, hitting one another live game. So they treat it with such caution that they throw the numbers out there.
And I would agree with that. It's way early. The game's
I know everyone
tomorrow,
wants,
isn't it?
Yeah.
I know everyone wants football here, and the sooner the better.
Right.
But it's just you can't have this game. You got to stop having this
The
game.
game stinks.
I mean, they've only been in practice for a week.
Right.
I know.
You don't want to
they're
watch
already-
Tyson Bagent?
Not really.
It's not about watching scrub play. It's not about us watching it. It's about I think it's the safety of these players at this point.
Yep.
I mean, you're literally 1 week into camp.
And one other quick Bears note, DJ Moore got a big sack of money, big extension for him. So good for him. He a Terp getting paid by the Chicago Bears. I believe $82 million guaranteed in that extension. 4 years, $110 million going to DJ Moore.
Nicely done.
Hey,
That's a happy dude.
Probably on the heels of his performance against the Commanders last year when they embarrassed them on national TV.
Hey, I'm going to jump in. Show moratorium.
Yes.
No more snarky comments about Tyson Bagent. Martinsburg kid.
Yep, local kid.
All his
Kinda.
friends listen to the show.
Yeah.
People like he's a local guy. We're rooting for Tyson Bagent
I'm happy for
on
him.
this show.
He's an American success story.
Right, D2 kid playing the NFL as a backup is an
great for
awesome
him.
story.
He's
I would agree.
living the dream.
He said in the offseason he did a workout. I think he said the toughest thing he did was a workout where he did a mile.
Yep.
Where they do burpee broad jump. Burpee broad jump. Think about
Yeah,
that.
hold on. He did an entire mile of that?
Yes.
Or it was mixed in with the mile run?
No, 4 laps. You do a burpee,
Yeah.
then you do a broad jump. You do a burpee, you got to do 4 laps.
Well, I mean, we would all die. I would
It's-
die. I mean, I would die right there on the track.
Well, I believe his whole entire family are fitness freaks. His dad's an arm wrestling champion.
His dad's a
Ah.
big dude.
Arm wrestling champ. You
Yeah.
know you're a tough badass if you're an arm wrestling champion. Yeah, you're tough. Don't mess with that dude. Don't mess. You know what? Anything bad we said about Tyson Bagent, I retract it all.
I mean,
Because I don't want to run into his badass dad.
I mean, he's in the NFL.
right?
I mean, props to
Yeah,
him.
good for him.
I saw, though.
And you know what? He's going to play this year.
I saw this
He
morning,
may.
though. I think it was on NFL, like at NFL on Twitter, and it had a promo for the Hall of Fame game. And I was like, oh, that's just false.
Right.
It was a picture of Caleb Williams and C.J. Stroud.
Yeah.
You're like, those guys aren't going to play.
Yeah, it's called false advertising.
Yeah.
They're trying to lure you in to watch. and none of those guys are going to be on the sidelines in T-shirts.